welcome to PD on the Go, the podcast that delivers bite-sized learning on communication, collaboration, and facilitation for busy teacher leaders. Tune in while you're in the car, on your lunch break, or making copies, and get ready to level up your leadership skills. My name is Mary Beth Anderson, and I'm joined today by my colleagues from the Office of Professional Learning in Fairfax County Public Schools.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Hazelbeck. Good to see you today.
Hello, Erica Williams.
Hi, I'm Hallie Case.
So today's episode, we are going to be talking about how to move your team from focusing on teaching to more towards focusing on student learning. And our last few episodes, we've been talking a lot about teams. And last week, we talked about the 4 stages of a team. And it got us thinking, when we were in the office, we looked back at this article from a while ago called One Step at a Time. And it's by Perry Graham and Bill Ferreter. And they talk about 7 stages of a PLC. And so it really kind of defined, at least for me, thinking about those 4 stages as one thing where that could be applicable to any team, no matter what your work is. And this is really more geared towards school teams. And so the goal of focusing on student learning is thinking about that cycle of continuous improvement, how we can refine our instruction to meet student needs, and what we can do to prioritize the time that we come together. So thinking about like where teams are, there's 7 stages. So, I mean, it could take a lot to look through that. So we'll be sure to upload that resource of that article on our site. But let's kind of dive into 2 of the teams that people come to us the most frequently about. So Hallie, you have a story about a specific team.
Yeah, so stage 3 in this article, they call it the planning stage. And it can really be interpreted and summarized in this idea that sometimes teams come together and their sole focus is to plan for the next week, right? And we just, as teachers, we have this urgency and this desire to just be prepared. We want to be ready, so we're using our team time for that. And I've been on teams like that, and we've all supported a lot of teams that have a heavy emphasis on planning. And when that's the case, especially in FCPS, where next year we're going to have about 1 CLT meeting per week. So collaborative learning teams will come together just once per week, likely for less than an hour. And you're not going to get all your planning done for it's just going to be nearly impossible to feel like you've done all of your lesson planning for the next week. And so one way to think about if you're in the planning vibe, how do you shift a little bit forward so that you're also taking students into consideration would be to start doing a little bit of analysis of data. So looking at student work, coming together around formative assessments, and really just talking about what do you hope students will learn, and do we have evidence that they're learning it? And just that small tweak to add that into your planning considerations, it gets to that shift that Mary Beth was talking about of really just thinking simply of teaching to also thinking about student learning, which is so important. So that's one of those stages, stage 3. So you'll see that in the article. That's a common one. Yeah. I think the other one, though, is what Rebecca's going to talk about.
Yeah, I'm adding on to what you said, though, to start with, even if you are in that planning stage, being really mindful about what you're planning about in the room. So thinking about what barriers might exist for the learners and what can we do as teachers to help them overcome those barriers? What can we proactively put in place? So even if you are planning, you can be very strategic with what you're talking about in the room as well.
Yeah.
I was going to share a story about analyzing student learning, which is stage 5. I remember I was sitting in a CLT. I was not the CLT facilitator that time, and we were doing a data dialogue, and we were talking about which students learned. And so we walked out of the CLT at the end of the meeting, and the AP was like, "That was great, good job, wonderful job." And then I'm thinking in my head, well, we never really talked about instruction and what we're planning to do for those students who didn't learn. And so we sort of had that conversation and put some different protocols and guiding questions in place for the next CLT to ensure we were thinking about that. So that's, again, moving from that stage of just analyzing the student learning to really examining our own instructional practices and thinking about what it is we need to do as educators next to ensure all of our kids are learning.
I mean, teams can fall in different stages rather. You said there were 7 stages, and you're as a team, it might be helpful to know which stage you're in, and then how to move forward. So we actually have a tool, the 7 stages of PL teams, professional learning teams, and the tool provides guiding questions and a description and also some action steps that a team could take to help them move forward wherever they are, because wherever you are in the moment is just right, and you're always thinking about how to move forward to support and increase student learning. And happy that we can provide that tool on our Instagram link as well as on our PLC site.
Yeah, and what's really exciting is we updated that tool recently to add in the specific links from our protocol library for those resources to move teams. Because what I heard both of you share is that we have this short amount of time, so we want to make sure that the tasks that we're prioritizing together need lots of heads around the table, right, to do that collaborative work.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing, and thank you for joining us today. You can find these resources that we spoke about on our Instagram page. There is a link in our bio, and our Instagram is at FCPS_PD. So join us next week for more PD on the Go.